ever thought about where the center of the world is? I bet you wouldn't guess it's located in the middle of the desert where Southern California meets the western Arizona border.
Never would have thought that, but our very own Jacqueline Aguilar meets us from the center of the world.
Felicity, California, population of 2. And what makes this 2-person town so special? If you step inside this pyramid and onto the metal disc, you'll be standing on the center of the world. Right off Interstate 8 and the Imperial Sand Dunes, a unique place like any other. It's called the center of the world, and it's the mastermind of French-American Jacques-André Estelle. His background just as unique as his creation. Jacques was born in Paris in 1929, but when Jacques was just 11 years old, the Nazis occupied the City of Lights. He and his family left France in 1940, arriving in New York. Attending multiple schools, he graduated from Princeton University in 1949. He then served in the Korean War, earning the military rank of lieutenant colonel. In the 1950s, he purchased 2,600 acres of land, not knowing what he wanted to do with it yet. But after holding the title of father of modern skydiving and being the father of the military freefall, he needed something to keep him busy.
Essentially, after I sold my parachute company, I did not know what to do. And we had this large chunk of bare desert land. So I told my wife, let's go sit in the desert and think of something to do.
Once the land was purchased, Jacques created a children's book to persuade Imperial County to recognize a place on the property as the center of the world. After following through with the legalities of making the land into a city, Jacques named it after his wife, Felicia Lee. He was about to embark on a lifelong journey in Felicity, California.
If you had told me that I would create a museum, I would have run out the door instantly.
Jacques says there was intense strategic planning behind creating the center of the world and the other monuments around it. Just like parachuting, every little part of what we see today was carefully measured out. He just had one goal in his mind, longevity for what he was about to create.
So I gave the best structural engineers in the Southwest the following specifications. Build me a monument to last 4,000 years.
So as one blueprint was finished, another one began, creating a pyramid, a chapel on the hill, stairs to nowhere, the Museum of History in granite, and a chessboard made of stones. The museum is engraved with history of both Arizona and California, the United States, humanity, pyramids, temples, and so much more. Over 900 granite panels were installed with various still empty. Some wonder why Jacques chose to engrave history in Felicity. He says it's so that future visitors can learn about the history of the world.
What we do is take vast subjects and summarize them brutally in a manner that we hope will cause visitors and students of the future to hit the books and learn more about each subject.
The Korean War veteran even created granite panels specifically sharing the history of that war. He says in the 90s, 18,000 veterans paid to have their names in granite, but due to poor planning of someone Jacques trusted, the money was lost. Soon after, Jacques called in a special favor to the U.S. Marine Corps to get the job done.
I was so irritated that I called some Marine Corps friends and said, let's show them what a few Marines can do.
With an ample amount of engraved history written by one man, Jacques says the big question is, what will people in the future think of his monuments? He says he made one panel in Rosetta Stone because of future language barriers.
These words are going to be looked at, presumably for centuries. I would be quite curious to know what people will say. The idea came to do a Rosetta Stone, because who will be able to read English in 3,000 years?
As for some of the other monuments, Jacques doesn't deem himself a religious man, but believes if a church is going to be built anywhere, it needs to be up high, bringing in over 1,000 tons of dirt to create the foundation for the chapel, where the pyramid sits directly across it. Another monument, the Stairway to Nowhere, was originally part of the Eiffel Tower and is 25 feet high. And these are just some of the sights you can find when you take a journey to the center of the world. The 93-year-old ex-parachuter says he's currently working on on what will soon be engraved in these empty granite panels. Reporting at the center of the world in Felicity, California, Jacqueline Aguilar, News 11.